Hello, welcome to this new video. So last time we started doing the tactics on the puzzle streak of Lichess. We did puzzles ranging from 1000 to 1600. Today we're going to continue with some more difficult ones. Again, the most important thing as usual is to look for checks, captures and attacks. And to get the most out of this video, I will recommend you to pause the video at every single puzzle and try to solve it yourself. And then you can try to understand how your thought process compares to mine and see maybe where you went wrong or maybe you did everything correctly. And the point is, of course, to get the puzzles correctly and to not move the pieces before we have the full answer in our minds. To not overlook any defenses. So let's start. So hopefully you paused the video or already solved this one. So how can we find the answer? Well, firstly we have to kind of evaluate the position a little bit. We have two pieces less than black. We can take one of them, but that will not be enough likely. So we have to go for a lot, which means either checkmate or win the queen or more. So here, candidate moves. There are some checks. Queen check doesn't work. There's this check as well, rook f7, which also attacks the queen, which is very forcing. So we can already look at this, rook f7. So if the king moves, we will take. Then black can take back with either the bishop or the knight. So keep in mind that just winning the queen for a rook will not be enough here, because we will have a queen for two pieces and a rook, right? So we need more. So rook f7, king g8, let's say. We take the queen. So if the bishop takes, we can take the knight. This is also a capture. There we will have more than enough for a queen. If the knight takes on e7, then this bishop is hanging. Therefore we will also have enough for the queen. But keep in mind we have to first take on c8 with a check, because otherwise we will lose the rook on c1. For example, rook f7, king g8, rook takes e7, knight takes e7. If we take the bishop, then c1 is hanging. So we should take on c8 first. Then the knight has to recapture, and then we can take on h4, and we will have more than enough for a queen. Otherwise, if black takes the rook, we can take back on f7 with the pawn. And at the moment we still don't have enough material, but the bishop and the knight are hanging both, and the black doesn't have a way to avoid losing both of them. So this must be the answer, rook f7, and here. So as mentioned, if here, we will take the queen. If like this, then we can take the knight either way. If this, let's not take the bishop because this will hang. We can take with check, then take here. So let's move on. Okay. More pieces on the board in this one. So already checks, captures and attacks. Firstly, material is about equal. Usually counting pawns is not that important, but pawns are also equal here. So where are the checks? Checks are here, right? These are the three checks that are available. Knight d2 doesn't do much, so we can discard this. Queen b2 as well. Knight takes c3. So knight takes c3, this b pawn is pinned. If the queen takes, we will take the queen, which means the king will have to move, and this will be a fork. Winning an exchange will be enough for us, so we don't really need to calculate further. We have to look for threats here, but everything is defended. So let's take, and the white takes, and here, as mentioned, we can take the queen. Okay, next one. This is an endgame, so you can pause your video and you solve it yourself. Of course, we have to just try to promote the pawns, right? If white now takes on f3 and sacrifices the rook, we will not win with the bishop against the king. So here, either way, we have to defend from this. If we go here, it seems the white king can go here. and we cannot really make progress as the dark squares are blockaded. Instead, I think we should go king f4 with the idea to play g3, then play f2, and bishop h3 to defend the square on f1. White can give a check, this is important to see, but we will block with the bishop and then continue with g3. So sometimes puzzles are like this, and we have to be prepared to play endgames like this as well. King g1 is a strange move. We can just continue with our plan of g3, and I don't see a reason not to do this. So g3 is good enough. Okay, pause your video if you haven't already solved it. So here, checks, captures, and attacks. Of course, forcing moves are one thing. We can also look for patterns like back rank checkmates as well, which might aid us. But looking for checks, captures, and attacks is a bit more systematic and more reliable. So here, checks, here, nothing. Here he will take, we can take again, and he will take, so we have lost a rook. We can take a bishop, but that won't be enough. Captures here, but starting with the biggest capture, we can take the bishop, which does look defended, but if we look further, it will be a back rank checkmate. So let's take here. Right, queen c2 was important to actually see. I didn't really consider this, so I kind of got lucky that I'm still winning. So I made kind of a calculation mistake here. I only considered rook takes b6, after which rook c8 would be a back rank checkmate. After this, it's important not to take the queen, but to take the rook with check, and then take the queen, and we are up a knight. So just to illustrate, this would be checkmate even though we only have a rook and the knight. This is enough to win the game. Okay, next position, we are down a full rook. So this is a sign that we will need to do something special. And here, that something special seems to be checkmate. We have a check on h8, which gives up our last rook. Black will be forced to take. You can go queen h4, check, the only check basically. The king will go here, and we will go to h7 with checkmate. So this is quite straightforward, and this is quite a known pattern. With a bishop or pawn on g6, we can give up the rook to force the king to the h file. So let's do this, and it worked out. Okay, next, checks, captures, and attacks. What can we do here? So the material is about equal, so we have to do something. So checks, this is a check, doesn't seem to go anywhere. Captures, we can again capture this. We can also capture the pawn on d4. If we capture on d4, black has to take with the rook, which undefends the bishop on c3, but it is still defended. So this doesn't seem to work. So next, attacks. What can we attack? Well, the biggest piece is the queen. We can start with attacking the queen. The rook can attack the queen. Then the queen will have to go somewhere. It seems the only square is h4. Then what? In that position, again, checks, captures, and attacks. We can try to take on c3. He will take back. We can take again. The king will move. We sacrificed an exchange for a pawn. That doesn't seem to lead anywhere. Otherwise, what else can we do there? The checks don't work, the captures. We can capture on d4 again. This time, after the rook takes, the bishop will be hanging, and because the queen is on h4 at that point. And also when we take on c3, this will be a fork, so this seems to win material. So it's very important when calculating not to discard the idea, but only to discard the move. So here rook d4 doesn't work, but after inserting this, it seems to work. Yeah, queen e1 is a check. I didn't mention this, but this clearly doesn't work. But of course we have to be careful, so we will take. And we're a bishop up. But the point was, After queen h4, the only square for the queen, we would take here now, and the bishop is now hanging and it is pinned, so the bishop can't really be defended. I guess it's also important to note queen g3 here, right? Defend the bishop, but I think this is a fork, and we will take the bishop. So there's a lot of variations here. The engine only asked for queen e1, but of course this isn't the most important. And also if here, then here. We will be left a bishop up. Okay. You can pause your video again. And let's try to solve this one. So, checks, captures, and attacks. Checks, knight e7, knight f6. So if knight e7, I guess black can recapture with either piece. I don't see a continuation. Keep in mind, our queen is hanging. Well, I guess if the bishop recaptures, we can take the knight. But the material there, we're still a pawn down. Not good enough. So knight e7 doesn't seem to work out. If we take the queen, he will take our queen. So knight f6, also a check and capture. If he takes with the pawn, we will take the knight. So this is good. But what if he takes with the queen? Forcing moves. There are some checks. There's bishop d5 check and queen c4 check. Because if we take the queen, he will take our queen with check. It's just not ideal. So queen c4 check should be considered. But then he could block with a lot of stuff. If he doesn't block, we will take the queen. So if d5 with the pawn, we can actually take the knight. Otherwise, if the bishop goes here, we can also take the knight. And if the knight blocks, we can take the queen. So this seems to work. Knight f6. Yeah, the engine takes with the pawn, but this is quite simple. We're a piece ahead here. But the more interesting variation was this. After which we would have to give this check. Now the queen and the king is attacked, but black has some forcing moves. If bishop goes here, we won't take the queen because he will take ours. We will take here instead, and a piece up for white. Similar to d5 and e6. Well, e6 we can take the queen. And if the knight goes here, then the queen is hanging. If the queen goes here, then not only can we take here, I think we can also do this. So this works out. Okay. Next, checks, captures, and attacks. So here, there aren't really any checks. There are some captures. We can take the queen, he will take back. We can take the rook with either the rook or the queen. So this seems to be the big question. So if we take with the rook, don't really see an issue. If he takes the queen, this is winning. But if we take like this, I'm not sure what the point here is. I guess he can take on d6 with check. We can go to h5. Don't really see the point also. But only one of the moves is good. So it's hard to say which one. Why would this be bad? Queen d6, king h5. And I guess after this there's not really much to calculate. Right? Okay, well this is strange. So I guess after queen a7, queen d6, king h5, somehow white is holding on. He does have two pawns, and our rook is a bit passive. So let's choose this one. And let's take that. So it's interesting to check with the engine what the point here was. So if here, right, so white can take here. And apparently the position is drawn here. Black is not in time to checkmate. and white is kind of threatening some perpetual. Okay, interesting. What's next? Checks, captures, and attacks. So at the moment, we are down a knight. This king is a bit weak, so checks. There are some checks. This doesn't seem to work. This is one check, this is another check. So we should check both of them. Queen h4 looks more natural to bring the queen to the attack. After queen e4, what can black do? He cannot block with the knight. It's important we can take the queen. Otherwise he can go to g5 or h5. So with g5, checks, captures, attacks. This is a check. Oh, never mind. This doesn't work. The knight will take. Okay, so king g5 looks a bit interesting. Checks, captures, attacks. What checks do we have? There's a lot of checks. There's queen f4, there's h4, there's rook g3, and queen e5 as well. Queen e5 actually looks good enough to win there. If king g6, no, actually rook g3, king h7, rook g7, king h8, I don't see it. So queen e4, king g5, I guess queen f4, king h5. I don't see it actually, because g4, king g6, again queen e4, king has to go to g5. Okay, this is a bit annoying. Usually such position should be winning in a variety of ways, but somehow I'm not finding a single win. Okay, let's look at this. He can take here. Don't really see a good continuation, so it has to be queen e4 somehow. So king g5, h4, king h5, g4, king h4, g5, 5, king has to go to h5, so rook h3, and this is just checkmate. Somehow I got stuck for quite a while there. Let's just do this. Yeah, as mentioned, knight f5 doesn't work. But yeah, this was extremely difficult somehow. After this, yeah, this I even forgot to mention this variation. If here, queen g3 is the point. After this, you can take here, and apparently this is winning. Well, yeah, it makes sense. Rook e5 is next. But after this, yeah, h4 was the big idea. Checkmate like this. Okay, this was tough somehow. Okay, let's move on. Okay, checks, captures, attacks. What can we do here? So the checks are what? Queen e6, rook e8. There are two checks that I can see. Queen e6 has to go to d1, right? I mean, blocking doesn't really seem to work. Though, if he does block, I have to take. I am a rook down, so he can give up one piece, actually. Maybe this isn't as good. So let's first calculate rook e8. Again, now if he blocks, I will just take it. And after king d1, knight e3. So rook e8, king d1, rook e8, knight e5, rook e5, king d1, here, 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 knight to e3, Right. So the king can go there or there. If the queen takes, I can take the queen. So if the king goes to e2, if the king goes to e2, what will happen? There we can also use the bishop there. Bishop g4 check. That seems to lead to checkmate. And if e1, then I think this is a double check. So okay, this should be winning. And yeah, as this is the big point, knight e3. And wherever the king goes, knight g2 will be a check and a discovered attack on the queen. So these were quite rough, but I think 10 is good enough for now. And hopefully this was useful, and see you next time.